my God, like we don't talk about how to be a spiritual person in business, or a spiritual person that has a business where they're activating their spirit for business.
Being a spiritual person in business, to me, this conversation about like manifestation, like a piece of that for me too, as a business owner, there is the recognition of what you're expressing or saying. And then there's the using your logic with your intuition to take inspired action. You are the creator of your life through your speaking.
Welcome to the Omi Show. I am Omi Bell, and I'm here with my good friend, my good girlfriend, as the kid would say, Shoshanna French. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. The show. Thank you. I'm excited. When we really are good friends, and so this is our opportunity to connect and talk is on your show, which I love.
I mean, really, like people don't even understand. Like we don't have time. So we never have time to like connect and talk. So it's like, hey, let me find a reason that we can now connect and talk that like helps both of us business wise. That is a shame, I guess. I don't know.
We leave each other very thoughtful, long podcast-like audio messages on WhatsApp. Those are pretty cool. I like that. I feel like I catch up with you on those. So,
and to me, that's real time to me. You know, like that's like we just had an hour-long phone call.
So, that's real.
You know, like sometimes we'll like voice note. You know, we'll do that for a good like 30 minutes. That counts as an hour-long phone call, I think.
It really does. I don't even the joke in my family is I haven't answered my phone in like a decade. It's on do not disturb all the time. So,
I mean, you know what? Well, I'm glad to hear that it's not just me because because it is true. And sometimes I'll just pick up the phone and randomly call you. Like, I'm just going to randomly call her. Like, so what? I don't even care what she's doing right now.
And when you do, I always answer. I'm like, oh, she's calling me. Like, and then I don't tell anybody else that I answered your call because I don't answer anyone else's. My nephew Deshaun is like, why do you not answer your calls? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there is a call that you did answer. Okay. And that was to become the professional that you are. So look at that. Why don't you tell the audience in your own words how you describe who you are?
I would say that I am a coach and a speaker, and that I love helping people trust themselves. And for some people, that's like trust themselves in their business. For some people, it's trust themselves in their marriage. For some people, it's trust themselves with their health. Like, that's my thing. Your inner voice is talking to you, your inner wisdom, your external beings of support and help are trying to talk at you. And we get really busy and we get really stubborn and think we know everything and we don't listen. And then we make really silly mistakes that we could totally avoid if we listened to our inner voice. So that's what I do. The calling, as you call it, I was saying this word to someone the other day. Convicted is a word that we used to use when I was a kid in my upbringing. I have felt convicted to help people my whole life, but this particular iteration of help feels like the most aligned for why I'm on the planet.
Wait a minute. I'm going to see if I can make this a little better. Okay. I like that. And I like that
because you just danced and moving your chair. She's like, okay, we have to include dance in this conversation. So we're going to just scooch and then I'm going to scooch back.
I love that, you know, because, you know, I'm doing with my 15 by 4, right? And actually,
that's right.
To be honest, the second half that fit. So the prayer and the meditation have stuck. I have continued to do that. The movement has changed. And the reading has changed, but like, well, now sometimes I'll sit 15 minutes with like tarot cards and just like look at them and just kind of like ask different questions. And then sometimes I will, the movement, I don't know. I don't even know. That looks different every time. Every day that looks a little different. I'm not getting it in the same way. But it's been fun. All right. So Take me back though, because today, so I've had you on my show and I've had you on the Karen Hunter show with me, and we've done it from more the side of activating your gifts. So you have like live readings for people on the show, things like that. Today, though, I want to speak from a different lens because I realize, oh my God, like we don't talk about how to be a spiritual person in business or a spiritual person that has a business where they're activating their spirit for business. That's not talked about often. I have, the homie Jordan Guyton, she's on Instagram. She actually has a business around helping people who are business owners in the business of like spirituality or health or wellness actually figure out their business models, which I thought was really unique when I met her. But you've been doing this for decades in your training. Take me back to when did you decide that you were going to go on a journey of being like a spiritual coach? Like, cause you could be anything. You could have said, I'm going to be an accountant. You could have, you know what I mean? You could have said, I'm going to go and
all the things you could have plucked out of the universe. You're like, accountant. I'm like, I can't do numbers. It's a joke in my family and with my husband. I suck at numbers.
So at what point did you feel it as a calling?
Well, what I would have said, so when I was a kid, my grandparents who were like deacons in their church and, led those kind of things, what they used to say to me is you're going to end up being either a pastor, in a church that lets women be pastors, or you're going to be a missionary. They were telling me that when I was like 7, 8 years old. And so I kind of always had this feeling of I'm going to help people, but I had no idea what that looked like. And I kept thinking of different ways I could do it because I'm like you. I'm an artist too. So I'm a singer and I play guitar and I'm a songwriter. So I thought for a while I was going to do that. And then I went to school for it and I was like, ooh, I'm taking all the fun out of that. Nope. And then I thought maybe I'd be a teacher, like a high school teacher. And then I was like, that's so much work to become a teacher. And then eventually I found myself at like this educational company and leading their work. And I was like, oh, like this is what I could do. I could help people think differently, and it was somebody else's work. But it was powerful. And then when I left that, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I had no idea. And I was in like a group, like a coaching group. And the teacher said, everybody is like coaches, like everybody's going to start a business. And that's actually how I started the business. So
Wait, give me a timeline. So, because I think you speak Landmark is the education company that you're a part of, right?
Yep.
But when did
I
you
did
start
Landmark.
that?
That was in 2000. So I graduated college in 2000, went into Landmark immediately, did programs, went on staff, and then I was in that coaching group in 2005. So 5 years later, there I am in this coaching group, and they're talking about everyone's going to start a business. And I didn't really know what kind of business I was going to start. And she was like, what about, those things you do with cards? And I was like, tarot? And she was like, yeah, that. And I was like, be a psychic? And it just literally had never occurred to me that I could do, I just didn't even think about it. Like, that's something I could do for a living. And so I started doing readings. And the more readings I did, the more it felt like what I did when I was a kid. And I would like counsel people when I was young, like counsel other children or help people. It felt a lot like what I did with my friends, which is like support them, unconditionally love them. But the readings were a little bit different because it wasn't me, right? It wasn't me giving them advice, which is what it was before. It felt like I was delivering messages from something that was beyond my human ego. It was like something greater. I felt like that's more what it was like. And there's an expression in my spiritual tradition called hollowing the bone. It's where you release anything that's in the way to draw in the goodness of life, or clearing the channel is the other way we talk about it. But I just kept clearing the channel and clearing the channel. And that's like a journey of a lifetime. I'm going to have to keep clearing the channel probably for the rest of my life, because the more I learn, the more I think I know, and the more that could be a bias I'm unaware of when I'm talking to people, when I'm trying to help coach them. Like, I have an opinion that you should do X, but this person's doing something else. How do I still listen and deliver kind of the intuitive messages I'm getting for them, and also coach them without putting my own crap in their space, like giving them advice is not the same thing as delivering intuitive guidance. And
Wow.
so that took like 2005 to like 2009 was only readings. And then like around there, I started to go, oh, this is a business. I wonder what that looks like. It's like, I
You
hadn't
know
really
what?
thought of it that way.
One of the things I want to like highlight out of that is the muscle you were building. Because I think, and this is what I think people forget about whatever it is you're doing, right? Whether you're going to be the best baker you're going to be, whether you're going to be the best basket weaver ever, whether you're going to be the master, seamstress, whatever that is that you're going to decide, there's a place where you start building that muscle that maybe you didn't even consider, right? Because I would say, like, not to say that you didn't consider it, but during your time with the education company, you're already starting to build this visual or this understanding of how people move from here to here. And so, what the education company that she's mentioning is about personal development. This is something that, and I want our audience to hear because I've been through a few different personal development experiences, and there's not a lot of Black people in them. In fact, it's majority white people or people from other ethnicities or countries who are deeply engaged in this work. And it's really interesting to me. One, it costs a lot of, like, let's be clear that, like, some of these experiences you're gonna pay a pretty penny to do them. But I also think that the way that the idea of God or spirit develops in different communities is a part of this as well. And the ability to look at the evolution of God in your life as something that you actually can participate in a different way than Christianity is taught, I think sometimes is viewed as taboo and is viewed as like, ooh, I don't know about that. You're like, but it's so crazy how it's all mirroring the same thing, right? You got your prophets, you got people prophesying, and the thought that, like, the only people that can do that are actually going to a building every Sunday doesn't make sense, right? It can't be that the Bible is the last thing delivered by holy through God, through holy people. So I never really understand why people get stuck there, right? Like, oh, the Bible don't say it and we can't do it. That doesn't make sense in terms of how big we know that the universe is, how big we know that creator source, that God energy is providing for things in our life. That I think for me, I had to wrap my head around, like, if God can create an infinite ocean, literally, with hundreds of thousands of creatures that I probably will never ever see in my lifetime, then how could I dare believe that that same energy could not speak to anyone else after the Bible was put together? So, like, this doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So it went silent after the Bible was put together? Yeah, no, not happening. So the education part of it, I think, is so interesting. What do you think that you learned just being in that education experience where you're working with them? So you're working for that company. Are there things that you learned during that time that you still, think about how to activate, whether it be how the people were serviced or the rhythm of it or things like that?
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, two of my favorite kind of like new thought leaders who are Black that I have followed for a long time is Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. I met him. He was part of like a like a think tank I was in for a little while, and he runs Agape Church in LA, and he speaks on like consciousness and does it inside of a church format, but his work is really powerful. And then Lisa Nichols, who I really just like love. I love her work. So I just want to say that there are access points even inside of your culture, and I love them. And I hope that if people have never heard of them before, go check them out because I think they're amazing. What I learned at Landmark that still now sits in my brain is that you are the creator of your life through your speaking. And if I look back on my religious upbringing, it makes sense. Like, cause wisdom is wisdom is wisdom. And it's like, if if you speak the word, then it's like ask and it is given. It's like, so to me, it's the thing that I learned was like, if I say that I can't do something, then I'm right. Like I'm right. And that will just keep being how life goes. And it's not a bad life. It's just not the life that I want. And so I got to kind of like, I don't know, you could call it like a experiment with um, speaking into existence things I thought I might want to be. or might want to do or might want to have, even if I didn't already know how to do it, how to have it, how to be it. So it's kind of like, it was like a laboratory, in other words. It was like like a safe space to experiment. And so that's the lasting thing I would say that I have, is that I know that if I'm stuck and something isn't going well, if I'm here inside of my head, that is not a place to hang out, because that's not useful. And instead, I need to practice expressing something new and have other people reflect for me what it is I'm actually saying. Because that was one of the other pieces, is sometimes we're repeating stuff over and over again. And if you're in an echo chamber, really, you think you're hearing yourself, but you're not. What you're actually doing is hearing everybody else say the same things you say. But if you have people around, this is like, build a community of people who will actually reflect, not say exactly what you're saying, but reflect back to you what the intention behind what you're saying is. In other words, like, call you out if that's needed. Like,
Mm.
you keep complaining about that thing with your husband, and then you say you're going to try the thing. Did you try the thing? How did that go? Did that change anything? Did he try something new? Did you guys try something new? And if you have people in your world who are like, I love you, and your relationship is none of my business, except that you keep making it my business. So now I'm going to say something to you and be like, go handle that. Like, go do your work. Go get the help you need. Go find a therapist. Go find a coach, read some books, do some work together. And so that, for me, that structure of accountability, reflection, and the willingness to express out loud what's possible, even if I don't know how, is what I got out of Landmark, for sure.
Wow. It's interesting going back to what I was saying about the Bible. Like it says in the beginning, the Word uh, was with God, and the Word is God. And like at first I'm like, oh yeah, the Word is with God, like, and so I like the way that was taught in church was like the Word, like, oh, these words of the Bible or something, I don't know, or like some type of words were like literal words were with God. And it says the Word, and the Word was God, like the Word is God. And I'm like, oh, God is the Word. Oh, got it. Oh my God, whole time. You know what I mean? Like the Word was with God, the Word is God. Oh, the Word actually is God. You know what I mean? Like the Word is God. So when you are talking, you are creating, right? And so when in the creation of universe and things like that, and then you're like, oh, you actually are creating with your words. The Word is God. The Word is the actual letters God. The Word is God. And so it's really interesting. I was talking about how like I got the message of like, I will bring you the blessing. Like I will bring you the thing. I kept on, it's like you placing your order and you keep going outside every day looking for the Amazon package. It's like Amazon touch is gonna be there in 2 days. There's no needing you. Go stepping outside on your porch every morning being like, hey, are they out here? You don't need to do that.
Where is my Prime delivery?
Yeah, you don't need to do that, and then listen, taking it a step further, you got a short window to change your order. And this is what I don't think people understand about their manifesting, right? They put things out there, energy aligned, words aligned, put it out there, and then like a year later, you're like, wait a minute, I actually want something different, right? But hey, you only had a short window to return that thing. Okay, so that thing is coming to you. That thing is coming. You get
Well,
it,
and
and
I
now you
think
got to return it,
yeah, you really do. Okay, just kidding. Don't want that.
right?
You said this thing, which is like spiritual, being a spiritual person in business. To me, this conversation about like manifestation, like a piece of that for me too, as a business owner, is like there is the recognition of what you're expressing or saying, and then there's the using your logic with your intuition to take inspired action. So sometimes it's like, and I joke about this, but it's like like my sister has 8 to 10 things, because we share an Amazon thing, 8 to 10 things in the cart at all times. And that's like her way of being like, maybe I'm going to buy it, maybe I'm not. But when I go in there and they're like the 10 things, I'm like, buy it or take it out, because I want to use the cart. Like, you're using up the cart. I have to like save, save, save. But it's like for manifestation, you could put all those things in the cart, but if you don't buy, like if you don't take the inspired action, nothing's ever going to happen. And I think that's to me, in my own experience of my own, not saying for everybody, but for my own self, when I express, say, ceremony, light the candle, talk to my guides, talk to the divine, wait. What's happening? Why hasn't it been delivered yet? If I'm not, then doing the next thing, which is we've talked about this, like the joke about, someone like, they're like, God, help me. I'm, I'm on top of the roof and there's been a flood and I need someone to save me. And boats keep going by. And this guy's like, I'm drowning. Why didn't you help me? And he was like, I sent 3 boats. It's like, God's like, I sent the 3 boats. So it's like that. Like, what is the inspired action? What is the guided action? And when I talk about clearing the channel, that goes for me too, not just for my clients. As a spiritual person, I have a lot of attachment and opinions about how it should all come, how it should all happen. And when I do that, it mucks it up. Like, it just mucks it up. And the opportunity could be showing up and I'm missing it. Like, I'm missing it because this doesn't look like what I had in my mind when I said I wanted this thing.
Yeah, wow. We got to take a quick break. I'm here with my good friend, Shoshanna French, CEO of Simple Spirit. And we're talking about the business of being a spiritual person and what that looks like. Business model. How did you figure that out? What did that look like? And what has that journey been like to figure out the marketing of a spiritual business and any type of hiccups you faced along that journey? So everybody keep it locked right here. I'm Omi Bell. We'll be right back. Okay, so I got a question for you. You know how like people complain about pastors having jets? What are your thoughts on like mega churches and pastors having like rapper lifestyles almost? Do you have any thoughts on like as a spiritual person operating in the business of spirit? Is that something that people should or should not be doing, or is it like, hey, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so immediately my thought is churches in our country are not treated like businesses. So if they were, that would be different. But they get rapper lifestyles because they're not taxed the same as a small business is. So that, like, you want to live a rapper lifestyle. You want to live your big dreams. You want to wear your Rolex watch and your Louis Vuitton shoes and your gorgeous, whatever, Kenneth Cole belt, whatever. Great. But if you are profiting from a business that is supposedly not a business, then that's where it gets a little bit funny for me.
I mean, that's a point. That is a point because a church, the business structure for a church is a nonprofit. And the idea, and so the pastor could have a salary, right? Like, we could be American Red Crossing it out here. You know what I mean? And I think that, I mean, then there's that. But there's also, so my thoughts are, if your church was so mega that you needed to get to the other side of LA quickly because you need to pray for somebody in the hospital. Okay. If your church was so mega that you need to get from one side of the coast of the country to another side of the coast, or you taking people on missionary trips to, across seas, then okay. Outside of that, I mean, unless you've just become so much of a big celebrity that you actually cannot be in public, which, I'll say there's some people like that, right? Like there's a whole rock star church realm, just like there's a rock star realm. And, and they have their visibilities and their levels of things. I don't know, to your point, if it's a church work kind of thing, but, mega is mega. I mean, these people got hundreds and hundreds of, thousands of folks following them. Now we've seen the downfall of a few of them. Okay. And
Yes,
then
we have.
and all of it, in every one of those stories comes greed. In every one of those stories, what was it? The song, what was that? The Hillsong Church.
Hillsong, yep.
There was them. I mean, honestly, there's so many of them that to count, like you can't even count them. They have had this like downfall of things. I think it's a greed. It comes when people get greedy. But it's interesting. So moving forward from that.
Well, and it's out of alignment, right? Because if a church exists to share the word of God and bring people into fellowship, and then all of a sudden you're selling t-shirts, hats, books, music, blah, 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 and you're merchandising it like you're a rock star on the stage, it does that further the aligned vision that God put in your heart for doing that. Like, then I don't know, that's like, that will probably talk about like alignment and what God's putting on your heart and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I can't speak to those men's heart. I don't know, or those women's hearts, but that feels a little funny. That's all I'll say about that.
I mean, it's interesting because I think that do they deserve to be paid? Yes. Do they I think there's the pieces around the merchandising that gets a little bit extreme because then it may or may not equal efforts that the church is putting out, right? So like that merchandise you still raising so much money. I mean, there's I will not name this church conglomerate, but they raise money for everything that they do. Like the individuals in the church, like they have a band, they got to go raise money for the band. But they have so many ways that they are bringing in revenue. And honestly, I don't even know. I think like when it comes to people being greedy, and I'm not saying that they're greedy specifically, but I'm saying that when it comes to greed, it's interesting because there is a period of life that it looks amazing in their life. It looks like, oh my God, they're really living it up. Like I wish I had it like them, but like that's how they're viewed. But then when they get older and then they get found out, they spend the end of their life having the most tragic downfall with the worst, like you're 60 years old going to jail. It wasn't worth it. It like you are, for 50 years old fighting allegations on some stuff like it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
worth it. How do you, and I think like, so with audience or with a sort of a fan base around this, around like, oh, you're a psychic. Oh, at one point, psychics were all over TV. It was like everybody's trying to have a psychic on TV. Or like, oh, you have intuitive. Oh, you can tell me the future. Oh, then the popping up of all these businesses that are like psychic readings and things like that. How do you remain grounded as a person with true abilities, I guess I'll say, in the midst of all this sort of noise that people encounter or that may or may not be real? They don't know if they can trust them, that kind of thing. How have you remained constant all this time?
When there was a moment in my business, like in 2008, when I was on the radio and TV locally and the newspaper, and there were conversations for those next 3 years about becoming a famous psychic. And for myself, what I realized is like, that's not like, that wasn't actually the conviction that I had as a person in my connection to the divine, was not to have me be the focus. And I'm not doing that in a false, humble way, because that word just means being grounded. I know what is good about me. I also know that I can be righteous and a jerk. So I get all the sides of myself. I mean, I'm real about who I am. But I will say that the way that I stay grounded is I've always related to myself as a conduit. I know what my gifts are. Does everybody have my gifts? Maybe. Lots of people have my gifts, same gifts. However, I've been working on them since I was 18, and I'll be 48 in September. So I've been working on these. I mean, I've taught 11,000 people how to trust their intuition over all the years that I've been doing this. So I would just say how I stay grounded is recognizing the places where it is about me and my maybe intelligence or whatever. And then the places where it's like a gift from whatever you believe in, a gift from me, from the divine. And that I feel really blessed and grateful that I, you know, have this ability to hollow the bone and clear the channel enough that I remove myself out of the way so I can truly, truly hear what people need to receive. So, I mean, that's what I would say. That's what's kept me grounded.
I love that because one of the reasons, if you're just tuning in, you listen to the Omi Show. I'm Omi Bell. I'm interviewing Shoshanna French, the CEO of Simple Spirit, and we're talking about the business of being a spiritual person who is doing spiritual work for your business. I love that because the clarity around what I'm here for, right? Like what I'm here for is this, and I think that's something that it gets hard over time for some people because they also get stuck in it as not a way to pivot the business or expand the business. So that's one part. And then there's a part where you get stuck in FOMO about what your business is actually supposed to be when looking at other people. That clearing the channel, you mentioned that a couple times. Let's dig into that. How often do you do it? When do you know to stop and do it? And what does it practically look like?
This, like, we could literally, you and I could write a book called Clearing the Channel, because you do it too. And it could be all like the practical stuff and the spiritual stuff about clearing the channel, but I'll make it succinct for this conversation. So I would
Maybe we
say
should
that,
write that book. How about that?
I'm telling you, it would be a good one, because most people, when they hear that, they're like, what does that mean exactly? So what I mean by clearing the channel is that if you are a conduit, meaning that, and it's, I have a tattoo on my arm that represents it for me, like it's a tree for people who can't see it. And I believe I'm the thing in the middle between the divine and the earth. Like I'm a conduit for receiving information, guidance, clarity, insight for others. And so clearing the channel looks like a whole bunch of different things. Um, I take really good care of my physical body. So, for the last like 8 or 9 years, and most especially for the last three, I've really been working on my health so that my mind is clear and I'm not exhausted. People change their life based on what I say. So if I'm not present and clear, and am I allowed to use bad words on your
Yes,
show? I don't
yes,
know.
totally.
Okay. So if I'm half-assing it, then I'm putting somebody else's choice in danger. That's how I relate to it. So like I take really good care of my physical health and I make sure I'm really present before I'm with people. So that's like one for me. That's part of clearing the channel is physical presence. The other thing of clearing the channel is if I'm really upset about something in my life and I'm not managing or handling it, I know that affects the way I'm listening. So, like, if I'm frustrated with the divine because the thing that I'm working on is not coming to fruition, and then I'm on the phone with someone and they're asking me about their $10 million business, you cannot tell me that in your mind you're like, really, God? Them, but not me. Really? That's cool. Whatever. Like, that's going to be a thing. And so I have to handle myself so that I don't let that bleed into what I'm listening for. So that's like
Mm.
another practical thing. And then the last thing I would say is if I notice, and this is just like it doesn't matter what kind of business you run, doesn't matter. It could be, you could have a physical product, you could be a service-based business. But if you notice that you start to have a trend of a pattern of a certain kind of person saying the same kind of thing over and over again, I pay attention to that. Like I had a series of clients over a few months where they were all talking about, I've sort of lost faith that the universe has my back. And I kept hearing it over and over and over. And I was like, it's interesting. And then I was like, wait, like, let me stop. Let me pay attention to this because messages don't have to come this way, like into me. I'm the channel. Sometimes the message is coming from my clients and it's coming through them and coming to me. So that's also clearing the channel for me is noticing when people are like, there's a pattern of stories, a pattern of people dealing with the same thing.
Mm.
And then I go, okay, fine. And then I go do my work. So for me, as a coach and as a guide and as a teacher, if I'm not doing my own work, like if I don't have a therapist, I don't have a coach, I'm not like doing my own spiritual practices, then I'm not doing the thing I would ask other people to do. And that to me, there's a mismatch there. So that's part of
Wow.
clearing the channel for me. And I will say that but like, I wouldn't have said this unless we were in this series of conversations, but I've been really feeling sentimental about my grandparents recently, my mom's parents,
Mm.
who are very, very just like godly, loving, humble, hospitable, helping kind of people. They gave their whole life to the church and to the people in the church. my grandparents would always have someone living with them who was having a rough time, and it would help them get on their feet. And what I would say is that the thing that my grandfather would do is he would always ask himself the question, which is like, okay, in this moment, how can I be the representation of God's love right now? And to me, that's like an example of how do you clear the channel? Well, what's in the way of that? So I'm often asking, like, what is in the way of me listening with purpose and intention and not having my own junk in the way of whoever's in front of me? And listen, I'm not perfect. Like I said, I know things about myself. I can be righteous. I'm super stubborn. And there are certain topics we talk about, and I will get heated and I will get in your face because some things make me very angry and frustrated. But in general, I'm always looking for how can I be more representative of love? Like, how can I show up fully in my love and like have that be what people are left with? So that it doesn't seem like I'm like, da 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 da, look at me doing this really fancy thing. And oh my gosh, my mind is blown by how gifted and talented you are. Instead, it's like, man, I have this presence and experience of like, she was really receiving messages for me. And they really appreciate me, but they also appreciate their guides. They also appreciate the divine for showing up. So it's not about me.
Yeah. I love that. Well, one of the things I want to know is that your purpose doesn't feel in question. And I think that and that is the one of the keys that I would say when doing the work. If you're doing the work of your business is being a spiritual person, and and I would even say this for preachers, pastors, or whatever. Your purpose is not in question. It's not whether or not I should be doing this. I'm dedicating my life to doing this. That is not like should I is not on the table. I am is on the table. I am doing this. This is who I am. This is what I do for my life. And I know that I'm clear that I'm the conduit. Right. And I think that for people listening, you listen to the Omi Show. Welcome. I'm Omi Bell, and I'm here with Shoshanna French, the CEO of Simple Spirit. We're talking about the business of being a spiritual person who runs a business of spirituality for their life. There's tools, that you may use to keep yourself clear and others clear and to work whatever you do. Like if you're a carpenter, you're gonna have some hammers, right? You're gonna have some, you're gonna have some connections to carpet. Yeah, like so I like what I love about working with you is that you make it really practical. That is like, hey, get out of the sort of hot air balloon dance of like, oh my God, it was magical. And then like it came down from stuff was sprinkling from the heavens and like I don't know where it came from. And oh my God. And it's like, no. This is actually just everyday life. You hear messages every day. Everyone, all of us, and we choose to engage in those messages and connection to God, to bigger parts of ourselves, the way that we use them. But one thing I'm hearing you say is who you are is not in question. I love that because I think lately for me, I thought I knew through my work with Black Girl Ventures, like I'm here to do this. And now I'm like, what is this that I'm here to do? Is it spiritual? Is it not? Is it a conduit? Is it what? Is it community? What I'm clear on is creating containers. But I think I started to like wrap my own stuff up, and I'm saying because if you out there, you start wrapping your own stuff up in your own like story around trying to figure out like exactly where you land. And then your question is just like, well, God, what is my purpose? What am I here to do? It's like you've been operating your purpose this whole time. Do you identify? Do you see it? How do you name it? You can name it multiple things on multiple days. Is it all in alignment? Do you feel like there was a point where that you can actively remember a specific moment of clarity? Or by the time you started a rhythm of like doing the education company, leaving there and just like, oh, I'm gonna start a business, you've just been rolling with it? Or like, do you ever have to remind yourself along your journey, like, this is what I'm here for? Like, is there ever a point where you're like, wait a minute, I'm not here to freaking take out the trash? Well, I mean, maybe some people's trash, but spiritual trash. But you're like, I'm not here to be an accountant. But you find yourself like doing a certain community work. You're like, wait, hold up, I'm getting caught up in feeding the homeless. That ain't really what I'm here to do. Like, no shade to feeding them, but that's not my job. Like, is there ever a point where you have to bring yourself back to say, oh, no, wait. My purpose is this.
I love this question only because for me, there's not one moment of clarity because for me, and maybe other people, this will like, they'll be like, oh, that's kind of how I feel. The experience of being a spiritual person who just also happens to run a business is that the practice of my connection is an every moment kind of thing. So I really relate that purpose is singular and that there are lots of different vehicles that are an expression of it. So whether I'm, as an example, I'm in my garden and I'm pulling weeds, that in that moment is an expression of purpose. When I'm at a tasting like networking event and meeting people and just having like what I would call kind of seemingly mundane kind of conversations, in that moment, I can still be fulfilling my purpose because my purpose is not a doing. My purpose is like a being. And so, yeah, I definitely have to remind myself what my purpose is, especially in those moments as a business owner when you're like click, click, click to the top of the thing. You're like, hey, oh my God, what is going on?
Roller coaster ride.
And then not fun, not fun. And when you hit the bottom, whatever that bottom is, all business owners, sometimes it's a revenue thing. Sometimes it's like people quitting. Sometimes it's like you get someone tweets something about you and you're like, oh, like whatever the thing is, whatever the bottom of that roller coaster, swoop is. And those moments, it's like I have to check myself and remind myself that my purpose, whether it is my business that I keep doing, or if I do something else, the purpose has to remain present and forefront because otherwise, what is the point? What's the point? Like, what's the point of all of it if I'm not like in this experience of being connected? And I really believe that the divine lives in everyone, but the divine also lives in nature. And so for me, it's like, how do I a big part of like me kind of like truing myself up and staying grounded is, do I feel connected in this moment or not? Not am I using my connection in the right way, but it is, do I
Mm.
feel connected? Because that connection creates aliveness and joy for me. So that for
Oh,
me is like a big part of just keep checking, keep checking. Oh, I'm not feeling connected. What's going on?
wow. Your purpose is who you're being, not what you're doing. I love that. We gotta close out. It's at the end of the hour. I mean, we can keep talking about this forever for sure. Where should people find you?
Please find me on Instagram, Shoshanna French Stokes. Find me there. Post all the time. Or find me on my website, simplespirit.com. Take my quiz. Find out how your intuition works.
I love that.